Pokemon is known for having its fair share of spin-offs, and reluctantly the N64 was the current home console during the first two generations of Pokemon. Along with Pokemon Snap, there were two games that brought our Pokepals to life. That's cheesy.
That was brutal!
What is up, fellow gaming enthusiasts? My name is Kevin, and welcome to Beyond Polygons, where we discuss the finer details and extra features of what makes a game unique. I've decided to hook up my N64 and look back on the games that I know I played a lot as a kid, but now that I'm approaching my midlife crisis, I want to look back and remember why I loved these games, despite being a bit archaic by today's standards. Pokemon Stadium, though, is still a fond memory for many Nintendo fans, even considering there have been other games that have tried to offer the same style of game. I feel like Stadium 1 and 2, as North America and Europe knew them, are maybe the best Pokemon experiences on a home console. They did go on to be some of the highest selling games for the N64. So with that, I have to ask, what makes Pokemon Stadium unique? Just a quick disclaimer here, just about all the footage will be from Pokemon Stadium 2 because the games are practically the same, and there's the entire cast of 251 Pokemon in the sequel, so it's just objectively the better game, but we'll discuss the differences later. So the core experience of Pokemon Stadium is battling with Pokemon, except hey look, they're in 3D, and it looks awesome, honestly. To see Pokemon come to life, busting out of a Pokeball and doing attacks, it was a big deal in the late 90s. I was like 6 or 7 when the first one came out. But it's true, when going from the Game Boy graphics to this, you could guess how much of a big deal it was. Lots of Pokemon first displayed their iconic personalities in these games, like Electrode's eyes bugging out of his face when he dies, or Hitmonlee's martial art influenced animations. They look really smooth. This is where we finally got to see the Pokemon acting like this. With every attack, the Pokemon came to life, and oh, don't forget that memorable announcer.
Hang on, earthquake! Break it! Grand slam!
If that didn't give you some nostalgia, maybe you're too young. Plus, the game uses a proprietary audio thing made by Factor 5 that gave the Pokemon cries a more lifelike sound, compared to the bit crushed Game Boy noises. The presentation overall is top-notch, especially for its era. The right kind of cheesy announcer, the moves look powerful, and the animations are characteristic of the Pokemon. The music could use some work though. It's like they just copy-pasted the music from the Game Boy and then like put it into another sound font, and it just doesn't sound good. So sure, the battling may feel nostalgic, and looking at these Pokemon is cool and all, but what if you want to use your Pokemon? Well, you can, thanks to the power of the... thanks to the... Missed it. To the... What if you want to use your Pokemon? Well, you can, thanks to the... Transfer Pack! The fact that your Game Boy games could connect to another console and send information to it, and now it's your actual Pokemon, stats, moves, everything? Heck, if you ever wondered why some of the Pokemon have weird colors, they actually have slightly different shades based on their unique ID, you know, the one that can't be seen by the player, or is it their personality? I don't know. There's that weird back-end stuff that actually makes your Pokemon look a little bit different. Point is, it's your Typhlosion or Heracross or Elekid, not just some stand-in. And sure, nowadays the 3D Pokemon may look better and it's now in the core games anyway, but for its time, this was the most lifelike we had ever seen our Pokemon. But there is a real reason to bring your Pokemon into Stadium. It's a whole new challenge. So you've already beaten the Elite Four, Red, what have you on your Pokemon Silver cartridge. Your Pokemon game is effectively finished, so what do? Do you reset and start over? You've made the connection with these Pokemon and you've spent hours catching the legendaries. You don't want to just give them up, you want to use them for something, right? I mean, I guess you could also just catch all 251 Pokemon, but that's for the collectors. What about the battlers out there? This was long before Smogon. Well, you can take your Pokemon into Pokemon Stadium. Here, level doesn't matter, and there are tons of different challenges to face. And they all come with varying degrees of difficulty. First up, the Pokemon Stadium itself. There are 4 cups to enter. Little Cup for Pokemon level 5 only, you better know your egg moves. Poke Cup for Pokemon level 50 to 55. This is probably the most viable to actually level and EV train your Pokemon for. Prime Cup, which is level 100 anything goes, which is terrifying. I'd even consider bringing legendaries. And the Challenge Cup, where the game gives you 6 random rental Pokemon and you just battle. It's a good option if you haven't trained your team yet, or if you just want a challenge that'll be different every time. Then we have the Gym Leader Castle, and in here Pokemon are minimum level 50, but they will match your highest level Pokemon. That's why all my opponent's Pokemon are level 54. I wanted Heracross to know Megahorn, okay? And it was totally worth it.
That struck home!
I think this mode really displays the challenge that these games provide. You can't cheat it out by over-leveling. Also, the gym leaders aren't dumb and don't just run all their Pokemon of one type, which seems kind of wrong actually, but it's friggin' hard! Okay, Clara's just as hard in the Gym Leader Castle as she is in the game. Her Kingdra is a beast, and she runs some really niche picks that cover her weaknesses. Koga goes for a double team strategy. Bruno has a Blastoise? What? And they do make decent switches? Oh yeah, it's a set format. No switch in between knockouts like in the main games. This was the first time this rule was applied in an official Pokemon game. The Battle Tower wasn't released until Crystal. This is a real challenge, even just during round 1. I had to resort to putting Pokemon to sleep with Standler and going for accuracy debuffs and oh man, what now? I'm frozen? Ugh, I just want to win so badly. This whole castle, and especially the Elite Four, where you have to do all 5 battles in a row without losing, else go back to the beginning, it can be arduous. I was having the hardest time taking on these guys, and I remember as a kid, I just rent Pokemon that were best suited for the situation, but I still remember the Elite Four being really difficult. Prime Cup with rentals, still really hard. It was a crazy time. Looking back, Pokemon was a lot beefier back then. Normal types were really good because having a lot of HP was just, yeah, it's so hard to get one-hit KOs. Unlike today with the Megas and the Z moves and the choice items. Pokemon's so confusing now. My MVP was a rest-talking Piloswine. I used Fly to dodge attacks and get more leftover turns, and you only get to bring 3 Pokemon, so you gotta hope that you pick right. Karen goes for an Attract and Confuse combo? Oh my god, stop it! So I think that being 26 and still finding this game honestly difficult is interesting to consider because, frankly, newer games that tried the same thing they just generally failed. And I think that's why this game is still worth going back to, unless your cartridge batteries are dead. So these games were followed up with Pokemon Colosseum and XD Gale of Darkness for the GameCube. And you can click or tap the card in the corner there to see a video on those games. But long story short, they're more story-driven games, and people definitely appreciated that. And everyone forgot about the bridging over your Gen 3 Pokemon to do the challenge mode or verse your friends or whatever. The core game is good, and if anything, it helps you port over your Gen 2 Pokemon into the Gen 3 games, but it's not the same experience as Pokemon Stadium. But then there was Pokemon Battle Revolution for the Wii, and it tried to just be a challenge mode for your Gen 4 games. Though it totally works and you can see your team fighting in 3D, there's not a lot of variety. But oh, Nintendo Wi-Fi support, so it's got that going for it. The challenges were all generic trainers or characters specific to this game, not the gym leaders of Sinnoh, and just these trainers that look like MMO characters, and I guess that's the only thing that this game does right. When your character is more prominently displayed, you can change your outfits and feel more involved with the battling, as repetitive as they're gonna be. Sure, you can unlock some neat items and you can purchase TMs for your Gen 4 games. It's just not a fulfilling game because it's essentially serving one purpose: battles upon battles upon battles and just a gauntlet of increasingly difficult trainers. Pokemon Stadium spreads the challenge across different formats. It's almost like Battle Revolution is the Battle Tower and Pokemon Stadium is the Battle Frontier. And hey, Nintendo, bring this back. Why haven't we gotten this since the 4th generation? This is what we want, options in different formats. I spent hours playing the Battle Factory in Heart Gold and Soul Silver just because there was so much randomness. So yeah, Pokemon Stadium does the battling better, but there's something else to mention, and that is, well, there's even more. Professor Oak's lab can be used to manage your Pokemon more efficiently than your Game Boy, plus you can overwrite HM moves. That's a benefit in itself. A free battle mode, which, by the way, I love the UI in this game. Expecting 1v1 multiplayer, it hides the player's choices behind the screen and you have to press R to reveal them. And I think that's interesting that it makes players have to remember where they left their moves. There's the mystery gift to send items to your game in Gen 2, and you can also see your room in 3D, which is a cool novelty. The Pokemon Academy, which serves as a Pokedex, move dex, item dex, and a great resource for Pokemon in general, actually. It even has classes that you can take. It's weird. There's the GB Tower, which lets you play your games on the big screen, which is nice. Plus, once you finish the challenges around the games, it will let you speed up your game to double or triple speed. It helps when hatching eggs or grinding levels. Plus, since you plan to use your own Pokemon anyways, you may as well just play your games on the N64. Heck, if you weren't able to afford a Game Boy and an N64, but you wanted to play Pokemon, you could actually just play it on the N64, but then I guess you need another game. I guess it doesn't add up right, but you know what I mean. But there is one more mode that is arguably the best mode. The mini-games. The mode that is probably what people actually remember most about this game, actually. In fact, I am sure that there's some smart-ass comment saying, "What makes Pokemon unique? The mini-games. Done." I just watched to the end of the video. Sorry, I commented quick, edited. Oh, thanks, man. Frankly, though, it's not wrong. You already battle a lot in the main games. This is pretty much just more battles. They just happen to be pretty rewarding compared to the other games in this style. But the mini games, they were something else entirely. They are fun, they are challenging, but oddly enough, nothing about them is complex or difficult to figure out. Eager Eevee is just 4 Eevees that run around a circle waiting for a Palm to pull up the cover on some food, and Quick Draw style, the first player to press A gets the prize. Easy and effective. Throw in some false starts and Pineco. It's like Quick Draw, but not too fast. You gotta see what it is first. And I grew up challenging my friends and even my dad in these very mini games. From the simple button mashing to the nerve-wracking Chansey's Egg Emergency, it's a good time, and luckily there is a championship mode that sets you up for a fun afternoon and really randomizes who the winner could be. And it will read your Game Boy cartridge and use your own Pokemon for the mini games, which I feel is a nice final touch and is what Pokemon Stadium is all about. Play your portable games, you take them and train them on the go, and when you get home, you can slot them into your transfer pack. Oh, that sounds good. Let's do that again. And use your team in their 3D glory to take on some tough challenges. You will be rewarded with prize Pokemon as well as the aforementioned GB Tower upgrades, which again, the fact that you could play the Game Boy games at even just double speed on an official Pokemon game is just really insane to me. As for their differences, it's just slightly different tournament modes and different mini-games. Unless you have a soft spot for the mini-games in Pokemon Stadium 1 specifically, there's almost no reason to pick it over Stadium 2 because more Pokemon and not stupid things like Rage and Fire Spin in Gen 1. So although Pokemon Stadium doesn't nearly replace the main series games, it proved that spin-offs can have their own place amongst their respective generations. Would I want another game in this style? I don't know if they could really get the same feel, even if they tried to cram in all the features these games have, but with over 3 times as many Pokemon. They already have 3D models in the main games now anyways. But, to reiterate, we need to bring back the Battle Frontier. You know what, that would be really cool as like a DLC to whatever Gen 8 is, by the way. In conclusion, Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 are spin-offs that add to the core games. Kinda like DLC, but it's really good. And that is what makes Pokemon Stadium unique. If you enjoyed this video, click that like button, and if you'd like to be part of the conversation, be sure to join our Discord server at the link on the screen or link down in the description. And if you'd like to see more videos that discuss what makes any video game stand out, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.